everybody. I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Chris Yee.
I'm Roy Cannaday.
Welcome to the Dice Tower. And today we're talking about the second expansion for Dune Imperium. Not only is it the second expansion, it's the second expansion to come out this year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The first one came out at the very beginning. This one came out at the very end. This is Dune Imperium Immortality. And this, in the lore of Dune, goes into stuff I don't know anything about. Really.
It is way past. I only know the first Part 1 movie. I haven't even seen the old David Lynch one. So we are way past anything I know. But all I know is I want a Chairdogs.
Yes.
All I know is the more you go into Dune, the darker it normally gets.
That's very true.
We're into dark stuff. Yes.
This expansion can be added to the base game and can be mixed with the first expansion. When I saw this, I was excited because for all of us, Dune Imperium is one of our favorite games.
Sure.
We like it a lot. But I was cautious because of A, it's a second expansion, and B, it showed a whole track thing, and I thought that would add to the complexity. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Chris is about to show you what this expansion adds.
Here's a quick shot of everything that comes inside the Dune Imperium Immortality expansion. You have 30 new Imperium cards. I'll go into more detail of these. You have 4 new House Hagal cards. You've replaced 3 of them from the solo deck or the 2-player deck. And these just interact with new aspects of the game, as well as the intrigue cards. There's some new things here that I'm going to go into detail about. A side market of cards, replacement cards for your starting deck, 1 board overlay. But I think most excitingly, let's start with this new tech tree board. This board here represents the Bene Tleilax or the Tleilaxu, which is a new faction, morally questionable faction. But if you are able to interact with them, you'll see that there are 2 tracks you can advance for victory points, intrigue cards, and other instant benefits. Every time that you get something that allows you to have this scarab beetle symbol, that's going to move you along the top track here, the Tleilaxu track, which can give you some instant intrigue cards, can give you victory points when you reach these spots, and if you're the first person to reach this big space, you'll also get 2 spice. You can start the board seated with a 2 spice there. Now the bottom part is the research track. Anytime that you get this microscope symbol, you can advance on the research track, getting these immediate benefits as well. These green cubes, you may ask, what are they? They're genetic samples. You'll take one of your soldier cubes or soldier pieces and put it here. This is now currency that you can use to purchase these special Tleilaxu cards. When you reach this column here, from now on, any Tleilaxu cards that you get, you can put directly onto the top of your deck instead of in your discard pile. And then when you reach the end of the track over here, getting any benefits for every space you pass along the way, you now, instead of getting to move forward on the research track every time that you have this research symbol, instead you'll draw an extra card, which can be a very powerful ability. There's also a Reclaimed Forces card, which is always in the market. It's double-sided, so it never gets shuffled, whereas you see these look just like the Imperium cards. This, you can spend 3 to get 2 soldiers into your barracks, or to advance on the Tleilaxu track. Now you'll notice some new other special abilities on these Tleilaxu cards, as well as the new cards that get added to the Imperium deck. These show the term graft. When you play a card that shows the graft ability, you have to pair it with another card, so you have to play both of these. Now you can place your agent out to either one of these spots, but you do get both of the benefits of the cards. There are also other special cards here, Tleilaxu or regular Imperium cards, that say if grafted. If grafted, this card gives you extra spaces that you can go to, for example, or if grafted, this card will give you spice. So if you play one of these cards that grafts with one of these, you get a lot of benefits and can choose to send your agent to any of these spots. As mentioned, there are 30 new cards added to the Imperium deck, many of which might not look too much different from stuff that you would see in the original game, maybe some new abilities here or there, but there's some that I'd like to point out. These ones here are cards that will give you the battle symbol so that you can add cubes into the fray from your garrison out into the battle as if you had gone to a spot with the crossed sword symbol. These cards here give you new ways to acquire or to spend those genetic sample cubes. These ones here have no symbols available yet and are only available on certain conditions in order for you to be able to send agents out to those spots. This one here gives you a new way to acquire victory points, and then these ones here will give you benefits based on where you are on the research track. If you are at the first genetic symbol or the second genetic symbol, it'll unlock special powers here and new strengths for you. Every player also gets 2 upgrades to their starting deck here. They remove the Dune the Desert Planet cards from their game, and instead will play with these experimentation cards, which also can send an agent to the yellow spaces, but give a research if you play it actively or a genetic sample if you play it during your reveal turn. Here's a look at the 15 new intrigue cards, which will interact with different aspects of the game, including the genetic samples, the reaching the different spots on the genetic track, as well as some new end game goal cards over here, battle cards and plot cards throughout. The new House Hagal cards are going to interact with the spots here on the board, but mostly give the solo bot new ways to move up those tracks. Every player has one of these Family Atomics tokens at the start of the game, which they can spend at some point to wipe the entire market and refresh the Imperium row. There is one research station overlay that you'll place over the original research station, changing it from draw 3 cards to draw 2 cards and move up the research track, remembering that if you bump past the last space of the research track, that turns into another draw card. And one last thing to note here, there's some variants in the back of the rulebook here where you can mix the epic mode from Rise of Ix with this expansion. You can choose to go to 11 points instead of 10 if you feel like you want to spend more time with these powers, and also some small notes here on changes to the solo game. Other than that, it's a very clean system, and that is Dune Imperium Immortality.
Okay, so there's 3 things in this expansion. Yeah. Well, there's more than 3, but we'll start with the smallest thing, which is that Family Atomics token.
Oh, yeah.
Done.
Simple. It's just so simple. Like, I don't even think you need this expansion to play that. You know?
You don't. But oh my word, I will never. If I'm playing base Dune, no expansion, nothing. I'm playing with that rule, straight up.
And it seems like something that you're going to use every single game. Like, you're going to come to a situation where it's like, cool, I don't like those cards. I'll take my shot right now.
And it's great because it's great if you don't have that much money and the market is clogged with expensive stuff.
Right.
It's great if you have a ton of money and it's clogged with small stuff.
Right, and you're
Either
like,
way,
I want to get a good card. Let's make it happen.
Or if you know the game well enough to kind of fish for a specific card for your strategy, it's so useful.
Right.
And in fact, it's necessary for this game, this expansion, because this does add more cards to the deck. And if you're looking for a specific card, you're going to want to dig down and maybe a little bit deeper. So I think it's important for this. I was actually talking to some people the other day about I might make this a house rule that you can also use that token instead of on the card market, use it on the text.
Oh, for the Rise of Ix, those science technologies.
You just want to blow up everything. Tom Vasel, blow up everything.
Tom designer, co-designer of the 3rd expansion for Dune Imperium.
Or I might give everyone another token for the text, and you can use that once per game.
Get Paul on the line. Hey, Paul.
It seems legit, right? I mean, that's the biggest. Anyway, that's from the first expansion. Let's talk about this expansion. But we all agree, Family Atomics, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Always play with it. So then the game introduces a new mechanism with the grafting of cards. That was the thing I was most like, okay, it seems kind of weird. And it is weird, I think, but it works okay. Grafting basically lets you play a card you want to play but go to a location that you normally can't go with. That's how I feel about it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, or it allows you to fire off the ability of a card that you weren't going to be able to otherwise because you have the active and then the reveal ability. Sometimes I have cards that have better active abilities, and I'd rather activate more of them than reveal. So yeah, there's a few
and some of that stuff can combo
releases
together in very interesting ways. You know, it's like, oh, this lets you get this card back again, or oh, this lets you do this thing, and can kind of help you manipulate stuff in interesting, strange ways as well.
I like the when grafted, if grafted effects.
Those are kind of cool.
That's a great companion mechanism. So some cards are not as strong, but if you mix them together, now you get like 3 strength of cards out of basically 2. It's so cool.
That's actually my weakest part of the game, though. I love that stuff, but it is possible that you might get a when grafted card and never see a graft card, because the deck is still big, even with Family Atomics. It's still possible. That's fine. You just got to go in knowing that. I would always buy the graft first, and then the when grafted.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's just like the cards are like, hey, if you have a Bene Gesserit card in your deck, well, if you don't have any Bene Gesserit cards in your deck yet, it's sort of the same sort of thing, you know.
Yeah, but those side cards, the Tleilaxu cards that you pay the
They're going to have a lot more of that grafted stuff on it.
Those are very heavy in grafting, so I feel like there's a consistent way to, kind of like with the Bene Gesserit from the base game, you can buy I call it a silver from Dominion. You can buy the Bene Gesserit assistant or whatever it's called, liaison, and that's a guaranteed way to kind of help boost your odds of getting or from an alliance, like those types of things. There's smart little design choices so that you can more than likely be able to use grafting reliably.
Another thing that I find kind of interesting strategically is the fact that when you're doing grafting, you're playing 2 cards out of your hand, and sometimes you're so tight on the resources you get that sometimes it's like, oh, well, if you're going to do a lot of grafting, you might not do as much of the Spice Must Flow cards and things like that, because you might not be able to get your hand to a size that you need. But there are more locations that can help you draw cards sometimes. So
but several of the grafting cards do allow you to draw, which makes them even better.
Right.
I like the new cards too. There's some new big cards that every deck building game I always like, what's the biggest card? What does it do?
It's
I don't know why I like
card,
that.
Right? It's like, oh, if I only had that much resources.
And they got a couple in here. So that's minor stuff. The main thing is this board here. The Bene Telex, I don't know how to pronounce it.
The Lexu track.
Yeah, the Lexu track. So this does a couple things. First of all, it has a fun little tech tree thing that you can follow. That as you get to multiple things, make some of the cards better. And more importantly, and I did mention this, there's also a lot more intrigue cards, and I'm always a big fan of more intrigue cards.
4 of them being end game scoring cards, or end game effect cards, which can be very important.
Yeah, for sure.
So I like seeing more of that, because the base game only had, I think, like 3. So throw a few more in there. I'm okay with that.
I agree. Then it has this other track here in the top, the research track, which I like a lot because it gives you 2 more ways to get victory points, and more ways to get victory points is good in a game. And then finally, it gives you these little, what are they called? The
specimens.
Yeah. And another card market.
Yeah.
Which I worried might slow the game down, but I'm telling you what, when I first saw this, I thought, I don't need this extra complex board next to the main board. It moves fast. I mean, you just move. You have 2 choices of where to move to.
And those specimens are a resource you can use in multiple different ways. You can either get cards with it, you can go up this track, which can help you get victory points, or you can use it to just get more guys in your garrison, which all 3 things are good, so it's just more choices in the game.
I'm really impressed that it does not bog the game down.
Right.
I really thought it would.
It helps, too, that you start with the 2 upgraded cards. Those experimentation cards are huge, because I hate the Dune the Desert Planet, those basic cards that are just go to yellow.
And they just
Sure,
allow
that
you to
happens
utilize
in every game. Every game has boring cards in every deck building game.
Yeah.
However,
these are the cards you're going to cull immediately,
But in Dune Imperium, you cannot cull easily. It is not a game that's easy to cull. No. The cards that they might not come out.
It's easier than Clank, but yes, I agree.
Yeah, but now I might not cull them.
Those research cards are great.
Yeah, because research is good.
Yeah, just give me better starting cards. This does require more thought, more thinking, but I also feel like it gives you lots of instant dopamine hits, because as you move up this track, you get the little things. You're moving closer towards a victory point, and a victory point is huge. It always feels like an earned effort in Dune Imperium. And you can top deck. You can put cards on top of your deck now. There's so many good, rewarding things, and they say, here, start with 2 cards to work in this expansion already. You don't have to wait until a third of the way into the game to hopefully start doing the expansion stuff.
To that end, if this stuff would add any time to the game, that time is depleted by the fact that there are more victory points, by the fact that you're going to play a little faster and better. The game rulebook mentions, hey, you can play to 11 points. Not my house. All right, I'm happy with 10. Dune Imperium is a good 2-hour game. If this shortens it by 10 minutes, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's still really fun. But man, there's the only thing I dislike nothing about this.
Right.
Well, except that it does make me itch a bit when you talk about some of the things in these cards, the Chairdogs and stuff like that. So there's some weird cards in
Dune
here.
is weird.
Yeah,
It's very dark, yes.
But I really enjoy it. What would you rate it?
I'm going to rate this a 9 out of 10. I love Dune Imperium. Like, Dune Imperium itself is a 10 out of 10 for me. And I really enjoy everything this expansion brings to it. I like the fact that there's another track that you're going up that is really important for getting victory points. It's another thing to keep your eye on. That's a point there. And a point in this game is huge because you're racing to 10. And I just like more cards being added to it. And I just enjoyed how everything kind of comes together and just adds more fun stuff to the game. So I really enjoy Dune Immortality for sure.
And you?
I'm giving this one a 9.5.
Oh, wow.
I really like this expansion. Dune Imperium I gave an 8.5, and as I played it more, it kind of grew on me. The first expansion, Ix, I gave a 9. It's really good, and this one I think is even smoother than the previous expansion.
More tracks.
More tracks. I love tracks in games. This is a 9.5 for me. I think maybe my only word of caution would be, and I seldom bring up price point, but the Dune Imperium line in general is always one of those where if you look at just the physical stuff you get for the dollar value, you might say, is this box worth $30? But I think it's worth more than $30 worth of fun. If you already like Dune, this is a phenomenal expansion.
I also am giving it a 9.5.
Oh, wow.
Really love this one. It's very rare for me to like a second expansion for a game more than the first one.
Oh, wow.
But in this case, it happens. The first one I liked a lot, but I could see playing without it. I have a hard time wanting to play Dune without this one.
Yeah.
Actually, I would almost always play the first one too. But this one, though, this one I like even more. I think this one's cleaner than the first one. The technology of the first one is a little, I mean, it's cool, but it slows the game down a bit.
Right.
This one speeds the game up, in my opinion, to some degree, and offers you more fun things to do, which is what I always want to do in any kind of game. And it actually makes it a little bit. Dune Imperium has always been way more about the worker placement than deck building.
Right.
Deck building is there, but you're going to go through your deck 3 or 4 times, maybe, unless you cheat and go through more times than that. But but this one lets you do cooler things. Take a card, you have it next turn. Love it, and I like that a lot. So anyway, that's Dune Imperium Immortality. Live forever. I don't know. If there's one universe you don't want to live for. Anyway. I'll see you next time. I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Chris Yee.
I'm Roy Cannaday.
The Spice.